I love you.
They sold millions of records, packed arenas, and lived like kings. But behind the scenes, drugs took over. From cocaine to heroin, these R&B icons fought addiction's grip. Some made epic comebacks. Others weren't so lucky. Let's dive into their stories. Number 25, Ron Isley. What happens when a music legend faces a downfall that nearly erases his legacy? Ron Isley, the voice behind the Isley Brothers, had it all. Fame, fortune, and timeless hits. But behind closed doors, life wasn't as smooth as his vocals. Born on May 21, 1941, in Cincinnati, Ohio, Ron started his music career young, leading his brothers to worldwide fame with songs like Shout and Twist and Shout. But as the years passed, his success came with a heavy price. Health problems began to take a toll. In 2004, he suffered a mild stroke in London, forcing him to halt an Isley Brother tour. Then came the financial troubles. In 2007, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for tax evasion. To make things worse, he was battling kidney problems at the same time. Many thought it was over for him, but Ron proved everyone wrong. After his release, he returned to music stronger than ever, reminding the world why he's called Mr. Biggs. "I've been through the fire," he once said, and he meant it.
Singing outside a lot, and so therefore I'm a little hoarse.
Number 24, Al Green. What drives a soul legend to abandon fame at its peak for a higher calling? Al Green's story isn't just about music. It's about transformation, redemption, and a shocking wake-up call. Born April 13, 1946, Al Green blessed the world with Let's Stay Together and Love and Happiness. His silky voice made him an R&B icon. But behind the love songs was a man struggling with excess, temptation, and addiction. Then came the night in 1974 that changed everything. His girlfriend, Mary Woodson White, snapped in a fit of jealousy and rage. She poured boiling hot grits on him while he was in the bathtub, causing severe burns. Moments later, she took her own life. That tragedy shook him to his core. Soon after, he left secular music, turned to Christianity, and became a pastor. But even with his newfound faith, he still faced battles with substance abuse and demons from his past. His journey from soul superstar to gospel preacher is one of the most jaw-dropping transformations in music history.
I looked so bad. My skin was all patchy and dry, and I'm a grown man.
Number 23, Charlie Wilson. Imagine being one of the biggest R&B stars in the world, then losing everything, ending up homeless and addicted to cocaine. That's Charlie Wilson's story, and it's one hell of a comeback. As the lead singer of the Gap Band, Charlie delivered funk classics like Outstanding and You Dropped a Bomb on Me. But as the hits piled up, so did the cocaine and alcohol. At his lowest, Charlie was homeless, sleeping in the streets of Hollywood. He had no money, no career, and no one to turn to. "I was living under cars, behind dumpsters," he later admitted. But fate wasn't done with him yet. A friend got him into rehab, and that's where he met the woman who would change his life, his nurse, Mahin Tat. She helped get him clean, rebuild his career, and find his purpose again. Now, Charlie Wilson isn't just a music legend. He's a living testament to the fact that even at rock bottom, there's always a way back up.
And sadly, mental health isn't necessarily going to get a lot easier for us because of social media.
Number 22, Ray. What happens when the industry pushes you to your limits? Ray was one of the UK's brightest R&B stars, but behind the hits, she was drowning in cocaine, marijuana, and codeine addiction. Born Rachel Keane in 1997, Ray's smooth vocals and powerful lyrics made her a breakout star with songs like Decline and Secrets. But fame came with pressure, and she turned to drugs to cope. "I didn't even realize how far gone I was," she later admitted.
What I'd realised I'd actually been doing to myself as a person.
She started relying on substances to numb the pain, but instead, it started destroying her body and mind. She wasn't alone in her struggle. The industry itself was working against her. After being trapped in a restrictive contract, she wasn't even allowed to release an album. This frustration only pushed her further into addiction. But Ray wasn't going down without a fight. She broke free from her label, got clean, and took control of her life and music. Now she uses her voice to advocate for mental health and industry reform. "I'm finally free," she said in a powerful moment, and she's proving it, one song at a time.
And I got over it, which unfortunately a lot of people don't. So I'm very grateful for that.
Number 21, Nivea. What happens when your success becomes your downfall? Nivea's early 2000s hit made her a household name, but behind the scenes, cocaine was taking over her life. She blew up with songs like "Don't Mess With My Man" and "Laundromat," but her personal life was spiraling. She admits she started late, saying, "I didn't smoke weed until 2010 and after I stopped breastfeeding my youngest son." But once she started, she couldn't stop. Cocaine became her escape. It was there during her high-profile relationship with Lil Wayne and The Dream. It was there when her career started to fade. "I did everything late," she confessed. Motherhood saved her. Looking at her children, she knew she had to change. She entered rehab, left the industry's toxic cycle, and started fresh. Now, Nivea is a powerful advocate for addiction recovery, using her story to help others avoid the same path. "I should be dead," she once said, but she isn't. She's still here, and she's fighting.
I'm not ashamed about talking about it because, a lot of our youth is doing that now, thinking it's the cool thing to do.
Number 20, Chris Brown. What happens when talent meets self-destruction? Chris Brown had it all, fame, money, and talent. But his addiction to lean, Xanax, and cocaine nearly ruined everything. His bad boy persona wasn't just an act. Behind closed doors, his drug use spiraled out of control. It fueled his violent outbursts, erratic behavior, and controversies. "I was drinking lean like crazy," he admitted. "I was waking up and doing coke." The world saw his reckless lifestyle, but few knew how deep it went. After the Rihanna incident in 2009, things got worse. Instead of facing his problems, he buried himself in drugs. Cocaine and lean became his way of coping, but it was destroying his career and reputation. Even his friends were worried. People close to him saw his addiction turning deadly. His weight dropped, his performance had suffered, and his mental health deteriorated.
Tired of expensive, low-effort script writers for your YouTube channel? Autoscripter.ai is the ultimate solution. Say goodbye to low-quality, poorly retention amateur scripts that fail to generate thousands of views for your channel. At a fraction of the cost, Autoscripter.ai helps your videos go viral. In just 3 steps, Autoscripter.ai creates a polished script tailored to your needs. Just input your title concept, select your tone and style. The intuitive interface makes editing and refining effortless, fast, smart, and trusted by hundreds of satisfied users who have already discovered the amazing tool. Start your free trial today and watch Autoscripter.ai transform your YouTube channel. Just click the link in the video description below now.
About what's the purpose and what's the goal that Chris Brown as a person and Chris Brown as an artist.
Chris eventually checked into rehab, but the battle isn't over. While he's still making music, his demons aren't far behind. Fans hope he stays clean, but only time will tell.
I don't make myself up to be nothing. I'm just me, and I'm a performer, and if people like performing.
Number 19, Bobby Brown. What happens when the bad boy of R&B loses control? Bobby Brown had it all, fame, fortune, and hit songs. But soon, his drug-fueled lifestyle became more famous than his music. In the 1980s, Bobby was on top of the world with New Edition and later as a solo artist with My Prerogative. But behind the scenes, cocaine and alcohol were consuming him. His erratic behavior, arrests, and wild partying became front-page news. Then came Whitney Houston. Their love story was legendary and toxic. Bobby admitted, "I never used cocaine until after I met Whitney. Before then, I had experimented with other drugs, but marijuana was my drug of choice. Their relationship turned into a dangerous spiral of addiction, domestic fights, and chaos. By the early 2000s, his career was in shambles. He faced DUI charges, domestic violence accusations, and multiple stints in rehab. When Whitney died in 2012, he was heartbroken. During a concert, he screamed, "I love you, Whitney," before breaking down. Now, Bobby is working on redemption, but his story is one of the wildest cautionary tales in R&B history.
I like to say Jackie Wilson was a wonderful entertainer.
Number 18, Jackie Wilson. What happens when the brightest star burns out too soon? Jackie Wilson, aka Mr. Excitement, was one of the most electric performers in R&B history, but tragedy and addiction stole his future. Jackie's voice gave us classics like Lonely Teardrops and Higher and Higher, but behind his dazzling performances, he battled heroin and cocaine addiction. His world shattered in 1970 when his son, Jackie Jr., was murdered. He never recovered. After his son died, he was never the same, a close friend recalled. Jackie turned to alcohol and drugs to numb the pain. His career declined, his performances became unpredictable, and his finances were in ruins. Then came the most tragic moment. In 1975, while performing in New Jersey, he collapsed on stage from a heart attack. He never fully recovered. For 9 years, he remained in a coma before dying in 1984. Jackie Wilson was a legend, but addiction and heartbreak robbed him of his prime. His story is a warning. Even the most talented aren't immune to self-destruction.
But I mean, we got the bad brothers like Eley out there, you know, that kill him, you know.
Number 17, Gerald Levert. How does a beloved soul singer die so suddenly? Gerald Levert, son of the OJ's Eddie Levert, had one of the smoothest voices in R&B, but behind the scenes, he was hiding a deadly secret. From hits like Casanova to Baby Hold On To Me, Gerald seemed to have it all, but a hidden battle with prescription drugs was quietly destroying him. He suffered from chronic pain and relied on strong painkillers to function. Then, in 2006, tragedy struck. At just 40 years old, Gerald was found dead. The autopsy revealed he had taken a deadly mix of Vicodin, Percocet, and Darvocet. His body couldn't handle the overdose. His death shocked the industry. Fans couldn't believe the man with so much soul, so much passion was gone. His father, Eddie Levert, broke down saying, "I lost my baby. My heart will never be the same." Gerald's story is a reminder. Even legal drugs can be lethal. His voice was unforgettable, but his life was cut tragically short.
My love, you spun the world on your axis for a hell of a time. And the prophet said...
Number 16, Tina Marie. What happens when pain and fame collide? Tina Marie, known as the Ivory Queen of Soul, had one of the most powerful voices in R&B. But behind the success, prescription drugs nearly ruined her life. Tina, born Mary Christine Brockert in 1956, became a music icon with hits like Lover Girl and Square Biz. But a stage accident left her in excruciating pain, leading to a deadly dependence on painkillers. "I had a problem with prescription drugs. I was on Vicodin for a while," she admitted. At first it was for the pain, but soon she couldn't stop. The addiction started affecting her career, her performances, and her personal life. Unlike many who lost their battle, Tina fought back. She got clean, returned to music, and rebuilt her life. Sadly, in 2010, she passed away in her sleep due to a seizure, a condition linked to past substance abuse. Tina Marie's legacy is undeniable. She overcame addiction, industry struggles, and racial barriers to become one of R&B's most influential voices. But for Ike Turner, his demons never let him escape.
This woman I see now, I don't like, I don't love, I don't want no part. She is like...
Number 15, Ike Turner. What happens when a legend becomes infamous? Ike Turner helped invent rock and roll, but his name is forever tied to abuse, addiction, and tragedy. His cocaine habit turned him into one of music's most controversial figures. Ike rose to fame in the 1950s with Tina Turner, creating hits like Proud Mary and River Deep Mountain High. But behind closed doors, violence, drugs, and self-destruction took over. His addiction started in Las Vegas, where he was introduced to cocaine by Red Fox and Elvis Presley. From there, he lost control. His substance abuse fueled his notorious domestic violence against Tina Turner, as detailed in her book, I, Tina. In 1989, he was arrested for cocaine possession, serving 18 months in prison. But even after his release, he couldn't break free. His final years were filled with failed comebacks and relapses. On December 12, 2007, Ike overdosed on cocaine. He was 76. The man who once revolutionized music became a cautionary tale of unchecked addiction. If you think that's tragic, wait until you hear about Sly Stone.
My brother plays guitar. Yeah. And my sister plays electric piano.
Number 14, Sly Stone. How does a music icon end up homeless? Sly Stone changed music forever with funk anthems like Everyday People and Family Affair. But his crippling cocaine addiction left him broke, forgotten, and living in a van. Sly was a genius. His band, Sly and the Family Stone, was one of the first to integrate black and white musicians, men and women, in a single group. He was ahead of his time, until drugs destroyed everything. He became addicted to cocaine and PCP, missing shows, locking himself in recording studios for days, and blowing millions. By 1983, he was arrested for cocaine possession, and his career never recovered. The most shocking moment? His own daughter admitted she once snorted sidewalk chalk as a child because she thought that's what her dad did with his cocaine. By 2011, Sly was homeless, living in an RV in Los Angeles. The man who once filled stadiums was now a forgotten legend. He was once one of the most influential musicians in history. Now, he's a warning of how addiction can destroy even the greatest talents.
You ever had a platinum album before?
Well, I think so.
What do you mean you think so? You'd use them for doorstops?
Number 13, Chaka Khan. What happens when even the most powerful voice in R&B can't silence personal demons? Chaka Khan, the queen of funk, had it all. Hits, fame, and a legendary voice. But behind the success, a dangerous battle with heroin and cocaine. Born Yvette Marie Stevens in 1953, Chaka became an R&B icon with songs like I'm Every Woman and Ain't Nobody. But with the pressures of the industry, she fell deep into drug addiction. I found ways to hang on, substance abuse and all that, she admitted. Chaka was hooked on heroin and cocaine for years, but somehow she still delivered legendary performances. She was functioning, but just barely. Then came the wake-up call. When Prince died in 2016, she was shaken to her core. She knew she had to change or face the same fate. The tragic death of Prince has had us both rethinking and reevaluating our lives, she said. She checked into rehab and turned her life around. Now, she's still standing, still singing, and proving that redemption is possible, even for legends.
If you are not using continuously, you're in withdrawal.
Right.
Yeah. And in withdrawal, you're sick and you're in the hospital, frankly. Right. So,
Number 12, Bobby Debarge. What happens when a childhood addiction turns into a lifelong tragedy? Bobby Debarge, the falsetto king of Switch and the Debarge family, had the world at his feet, but heroin addiction robbed him of everything. Bobby started using heroin at just 15 years old. As his fame grew, so did his dependency on the drug. Even while recording classics like There'll Never Be, he was battling his demons in secret. By 1988, the law caught up with him. He was convicted on drug trafficking charges and sentenced to 5 years in prison. His career was already on life support, but prison sealed his fate. Then, the most heartbreaking news. Bobby had contracted HIV, which later developed into AIDS. His health deteriorated fast. By 1995, at just 39 years old, Bobby Debarge passed away. His life is one of the biggest what-ifs in R&B history. What if he had gotten clean? What if he had been given another chance? We'll never know.
Been doing? Just trying to get back to it, you know. Just trying to. Thanks. Yeah.
Number 11, Debarge. Can a fallen star truly rise again? Debarge, the voice of Rhythm of the Night, had everything: a golden voice, massive fame, and undeniable charm. But cocaine addiction nearly erased it all. After Debarge disbanded, L's personal struggles got worse. He turned to cocaine, thinking he could control it, but instead, it controlled him. "I was a functioning drug addict. I didn't want to believe it," he later confessed, but the world saw the truth. His addiction led to multiple arrests, rehab stints, and a complete career collapse. Fans wondered, would he ever make it back? Then, the unexpected happened. In 2010, he released Second Chance, a stunning comeback album. It even earned him a Grammy nomination. Debarge's story is one of the rare ones, a tale of redemption, survival, and the fight to reclaim what was lost.
Oh, you know, but I always loved Billie Holiday. And as a child, my mother was a real jazz lover and everything.
Number 10, Eda James. What happens when one of the greatest voices in music nearly disappears forever? Eda James, the powerhouse behind At Last, had it all, except control over her deadly addiction to heroin and cocaine. By the mid-1960s, Eda was in deep trouble. Her addiction was so bad that she wrote bad checks, forged prescriptions, and even stole from friends to fuel her habit. She was eventually arrested and placed on probation. Her wake-up call? A 17-month stay at the Tarzana Psychiatric Hospital. She later admitted in her autobiography, Rage to Survive, that the experience changed her life forever. "I had been through hell," she once said, and she wasn't lying. Her addiction nearly robbed the world of her voice. But somehow, Eda fought back. She got clean and staged one of the biggest comebacks in R&B history. She kept performing and recording until her passing in 2012. Her story is a testament to survival. Eda James refused to let heroin be her final note.
You see, you have a deep bass voice, you know. I've never had that kind of voice.
Number 9, Ray Charles. How does a music genius spend nearly 20 years hooked on heroin and still come out on top? Ray Charles's life was a mix of musical brilliance and personal chaos. His heroin addiction started early in his career, but it didn't just affect him. It led to multiple arrests. In 1965, he was caught at Boston's Logan Airport with heroin and marijuana. Facing serious prison time, Ray had one choice: get clean or lose everything. So he did the unthinkable. He quit heroin cold turkey in a Los Angeles rehab clinic. It was the hardest battle of his life. "I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired," he later said. And the craziest part? He never relapsed. He left heroin behind and went on to become one of the greatest musicians of all time. Ray Charles proved that even 20 years of addiction doesn't have to be a death sentence. But Billie Holiday wasn't as lucky.
There's two kinds of blues. There's happy blues and there's sad blues.
Number 8, Billie Holiday. What happens when one of the most haunting voices in history is silenced too soon? Billie Holiday wasn't just a singer. She was a legend. But behind Strange Fruit and her soulful ballads was a crippling heroin addiction. In 1947, Billie was arrested for heroin possession in her New York apartment. The worst part? The law didn't just punish her, it destroyed her career. She lost her cabaret card, which meant she couldn't perform in clubs. Her income disappeared, her opportunities vanished, and her health declined. But she wasn't done yet. In 1948, she made a legendary comeback, a sold-out show at Carnegie Hall. Fans still adored her, but her addiction kept pulling her back. Her final days were tragic. In 1959, she was hospitalized for liver failure. But even on her deathbed, the police weren't done with her. They arrested her again for drug possession, handcuffing her to her hospital bed. She died at just 44 years old. Billie Holiday's story is one of the most heartbreaking falls in music history.
To Bill Cosby, to Willie Nelson, yeah, covered Hold On, I'm Coming.
Number 7, Sam Moore. What happens when one of soul music's biggest voices nearly destroys himself? Sam Moore, one half of Sam and Dave, had a voice that shook the world. But behind the scenes, heroin addiction almost ended it all. In the 1960s, Sam and Dave were unstoppable, with hits like Soul Man and Hold On, I'm Coming. But at the same time, Sam was spiraling into heroin and cocaine addiction. He later admitted, "Heroin and cocaine, they made me feel bigger than life. You can insult people, get in fights, treat women any kind of way, but eventually, you're just taking them because you don't want to get sick." His addiction caused fights, arrests, and even the breakup of Sam and Dave. He lost money, relationships, and nearly his life. But in the 1980s, he finally got clean. Sam later performed for 6 U.S. presidents and became a symbol of redemption. He passed away in January 2025 at age 89, proving that even in music, second chances exist. But Whitney Houston, her second chance never came.
My daughter is my greatest inspiration. She has trained me for this role. She has trained me.
Number 6, Whitney Houston. How does the world's most perfect voice meet the most tragic ending? Whitney Houston had it all: fame, fortune, a voice from heaven. But her cocaine addiction stole everything. She started with innocent success, hits like I Will Always Love You and Greatest Love of All. But behind the glamour, she was addicted to drugs and a toxic marriage with Bobby Brown. Her addiction was no secret. In that infamous Diane Sawyer interview, she denied using crack but admitted crack is whack. Fans saw the truth: her shaky performances, dramatic weight loss, and erratic behavior. Her worst moment? On February 11, 2012, Whitney was found face down in a Beverly Hilton bathtub. The cause? Cocaine, heart disease, and drowning. Her death shattered the world. A voice that defined a generation was gone. Too soon, too tragically. But if you thought Whitney's downfall was shocking, wait until you hear about James Brown.
Huh? Because I look good. That is? I smell good. I feel good.
And Number 5, James Brown. What happens when the hardest working man in show business loses control? James Brown wasn't just a legend, he was a force of nature. But cocaine and PCP turned him into a ticking time bomb. The godfather of soul gave us hits like I Got You, I Feel Good, and Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. But offstage, he was paranoid, violent, and addicted to PCP and cocaine. In 1988, high on PCP, James stormed into an office with a shotgun and led police on a crazy high-speed chase across 2 states. He ended up serving 6 years in prison. Even after prison, he couldn't stay out of trouble. He was arrested multiple times for domestic violence and drugs. His addiction cost him millions, his family, and nearly his career. James Brown died in 2006, still a legend, but a shadow of the powerhouse he once was. His chaotic life was as unforgettable as his music.
Mr. Bobby Womack. Bobby, come on over. Sit down here for a second. We'll do a little.
Number 4, Bobby Womack. What happens when a soul legend admits he spent more money on drugs than most people make in a lifetime? Bobby Womack, the voice behind Across 110th Street, had talent, success, and an addiction that nearly destroyed him. Womack was one of R&B's most influential musicians, but behind the scenes, he was drowning in cocaine addiction. He later confessed, "I was just an average guy trying to be extraordinary." But instead of lifting him up, drugs tore him down. His addiction wasn't just personal, it cost him millions. He admitted, "I was sitting there with cocaine, telling her, 'Why you waiting on this cat calling? Have some of this.'" His drug use led to erratic behavior, lost opportunities, and broken relationships. In the early 1990s, he finally went to rehab and cleaned up his act. Amazingly, he staged the comeback and even collaborated with Gorillaz. Bobby Womack proved that survival is possible, but not everyone got that second chance, especially Rick James.
Oh my.
I thought it'd be appropriate to do since we're talking about
Very
sex and
nice,
stuff.
very nice. We have to go away for a commercial.
Number 3, Rick James. How do you go from music legend to prison inmate? Rick James wasn't just wild, he was dangerous. His cocaine and heroin addiction led to violent crimes, kidnappings, and complete destruction. James's music defined funk and R&B, with hits like Super Freak and Give It To Me Baby. But his drug use was out of control. He admitted to spending $7,000 a week on cocaine for 5 years straight. Then came his most infamous crime. In 1991, during a week-long cocaine binge, he kidnapped and tortured a woman, burning her with a crack pipe. While out on bail, he did it again. The court sentenced him to 5 years in prison. When he got out, he tried to make a comeback, but his reputation and his body were too damaged. He died in 2004, a legend, but also a cautionary tale of excess and self-destruction. And if you think Rick James had it bad, wait until you hear about David Ruffin's downfall.
I was touring with the Womack brothers, Bobby Womack, and Mavis Staples, the Dixie Hummingbird.
Number 2, David Ruffin. What happens when the smoothest voice in R&B meets the deadliest addiction? David Ruffin, the electrifying lead singer of The Temptations, had the world in the palm of his hand. But his cocaine addiction took everything, his career, his money, and ultimately his life. In the 1960s, Ruffin was untouchable, delivering hits like My Girl with a voice that made hearts melt. But behind the scenes, he was becoming uncontrollable. His drug abuse, violent outbursts, and erratic behavior led to him being kicked out of The Temptations in 1968. Still, he tried to go solo. He had the voice, but his addiction ruined every opportunity. He would miss shows, steal money, and show up too high to perform. Even his closest friends couldn't help him. By 1991, David was homeless, bouncing between drug houses and bad deals. On June 1st, after a long night of using cocaine, he overdosed in a Philadelphia crack house. What happened next is even worse. Instead of calling for help, his so-called friends robbed him, stole his wallet, and dumped his body outside a hospital. The man who once stood center stage as the biggest voice in R&B was left to die alone, broke, and forgotten. David Ruffin's life is one of the most tragic falls in music history. His talent was unmatched, but in the end, cocaine won. And now, the most heartbreaking R&B tragedy of them all, Marvin Gay.
Now, do I write my music according to my lifestyle? If I'm sad, I write sad music. If I'm being...
Number 1, Marvin Gay. How does one of the greatest artists of all time end up shot dead by his own father? Marvin Gay was a genius, a hitmaker, and a cultural icon, but his cocaine addiction fueled paranoia, depression, and a tragic fate. By the 1970s, Marvin had already given the world masterpieces like What's Going On and Let's Get It On. But success wasn't enough to silence his demons. He started using cocaine heavily, and it changed him. Marvin became paranoid, reclusive, and deeply depressed. He blew through millions of dollars, lived in exile in Belgium for a time, and was convinced people were out to kill him. By 1983, he moved back to his parents' house, a dangerous decision. His relationship with his father, Marvin Gay Sr., had always been abusive and toxic. On April 1st, 1984, the final fight happened. Marvin, strung out on cocaine, got into a heated argument with his father. It escalated until his father pulled a gun out and shot him twice in the chest. Just one day before his 45th birthday, Marvin Gay, the legend, the genius, was dead. His father later said, "I didn't mean to do it, but it was too late." Marvin Gaye's death is one of the most shocking and tragic stories in music history. His legacy lives on, but his final moments remain haunting. That's our list. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. If you love deep dives into music history, hit like, subscribe, and watch this next video. You won't want to miss it. See you soon.